Bloomberg Audio Studios.
Podcasts, radio, news.
Good morning, I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm Karen Moscow. Here are the stories we're following today.
Stocks are closing out the week in record fashion. Optimism that the Fed will be able to engineer a soft landing propelled the S&P 500 to its 20th record this year. The NASDAQ 100 also hit an all-time high. Cheryl Smith is portfolio manager at Trillium Asset Management.
Equity market wants to believe and wants to believe hard and is looking for every possible sign to go higher. The fact is that we are 24 months into a Fed tightening cycle, and that is about when we normally see interest rate hikes begin to really affect the economy.
Trillium Asset Management's Cheryl Smith notes in just 3 months, the S&P 500 is already trading above the average year-end forecast of strategists tracked by Bloomberg.
Well, Nathan, helping to fuel optimism was another successful trading debut of an IPO. Social media company Reddit rose 48% yesterday. Chief Operating Officer Jen Wong says the artificial revolution is at the center of Reddit's value proposition.
Large language models need data to train on. And when you look at Reddit's corpus, 19 years of human experience organized by topic with moderation and relevance, that's incredibly important to building both a chat capability and the freshness of information. So that's an area where, we see opportunity.
And Reddit's Jen Wong tells Bloomberg the firm is also in the early stages of allowing third parties to license access to data on the platform.
And at yesterday's closing price of $50.44, Karen, Reddit has a market value of $8 billion. Includes stock options and restricted share units. The company's fully diluted valuation runs closer to $9.5 billion. Bloomberg intelligence analyst Mandeep Singh explains what going public means for Reddit.
As a public company, I think they'll be forced to improve their act in terms of, showing more profitability. I don't think there is scare in terms of cash burn or, them running out of money. They've got a perfectly fine balance sheet. But now it's all about showing monetization. And the LLM, the generative AI aspect is huge.
Bloomberg intelligence analyst Mandeep Singh argued even before the pricing that Reddit could be worth as much as $10 billion.
Well, Nathan, several stocks are on the move this morning. Shares of FedEx up more than 12%. Cost-cutting helped the courier deliver better than expected earnings. FedEx also plans to buy back $5 billion of its shares.
On the flip side, Karen, shares of Lululemon are down nearly 13%. The athletic maker forecast lower than expected sales outlook for the first quarter and the full year. Lulu says visits to its stores in the U.S. slowed at the beginning of the year.
Also lower this morning, shares of Nike. They are down almost 7% this morning, Nathan. The world's largest sportswear retailer warning investors that sales will take a hit later this year. Nike says it's working to realign merchandise to better match what shoppers want to buy.
And investors have also taken a big bite out of Apple's market value. In fact, it dropped $113 billion yesterday. This latest slide comes after Attorney General Merrick Garland announced an antitrust lawsuit against the company, accusing it of blocking rivals from accessing hardware and software features on the iPhone.
We allege that Apple has employed a strategy that relies on exclusionary, anti-competitive conduct that hurts both consumers and developers. For consumers, that has meant fewer choices, higher prices and fees, lower quality smartphones, apps, and accessories, and less innovation from Apple and its competitors.
And Merrick Garland's Justice Department lawsuit has been strongly refuted by Apple. It says it is wrong on the facts and the law.
Well, we turn to the economy now, Nathan, and criticism of the Federal Reserve by a former Treasury Secretary. Larry Summers is questioning why the Fed is continuing to signal that it's prepared to lower interest rates, despite a strong economy that's giving off projections of still too high inflation.
My sense is still that the Fed is itchy fingers to start cutting rates, and I don't fully get it. I don't know why we're in such a hurry to be talking about moving towards the accelerator.
And Larry Summers added that the Fed's current neutral policy rate is more restrictive than it needs to be. Hear the full conversation on Bloomberg Wall Street Week today at 6 p.m. Wall Street time on Bloomberg Radio and television.
On Capitol Hill, Karen, another partial government shutdown deadline is just hours away. The funds run out for about 70% of federal agencies at midnight tonight. But later this morning, the House will vote on a $1.2 trillion measure to keep them open through the end of September. Speaker Mike Johnson's bringing this bill up under a streamlined process that requires 2/3 support. Bloomberg's Kate Ackley reports the clock is ticking.
There's this sort of the pressure building, 2-week recess on the horizon. Everybody wants to get back to their districts. Yes, it could fall apart, of course, but we have seen them again and again try to wrap things up so that they don't, in an election year, sort of draw attention to the dysfunction of government.
Bloomberg's Kate Ackley reports some Republicans are crying foul over the process. Speaker Johnson is bypassing a House rule that gives lawmakers 72 hours to review a bill before they vote on it.
Well, now, Nathan, to the latest on the war in the Middle East, there are signs of progress toward a possible Gaza peace agreement. At the same time, there are threats of an invasion of Rafah. And Bloomberg's Ed Baxter has the details.
Delegations from Israel, the U.S., Qatar, and Egypt will meet today to try to draw up a plan so that the invasion does not have to happen. But Israel's Minister for Strategic Affairs, Ron Dermer, on a U.S. podcast, says Hamas infrastructure remains in Rafah.
What you saw on October 7th was a genocidal force that wants to wipe out all the Jews. And it's the first pogrom that we've had since the birth of the State of Israel. We have the ability to defend ourselves.
He says if there is not a peace deal, the assault will happen. Ed Baxter, Bloomberg Radio.
All right, Ed, thank you. And it's time now for a look at some of the other stories making news in New York and around the world. And for that, we're joined by Bloomberg's Michael Barr. Michael, good morning.
Good morning, Karen. Embattled New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez says he won't be seeking re-election as a Democrat, but is keeping the door open to an independent run for his seat. Menendez and his wife Nadine are facing federal corruption charges. Prosecutors allege they took gifts in exchange for doing official favors for the governments of Egypt and Qatar. In a video he posted on social media, Menendez touted the work he's done in the Senate and declared his innocence on charges.
This would allow me the time to not only remind New Jerseyans of how I've succeeded in being your champion, but how we will secure our financial futures, meet the challenges of raising a family, owning a home, provide for a college education, and secure a more peaceful world for all of us to live in.
If Menendez does run as an independent, he would face one of two Democratic candidates in November, Governor Phil Murphy's wife, Tammy Murphy, or Representative Andy Kim. Russian missile and drone attacks damage electricity and transmission systems in several Ukrainian regions, causing power cuts in some areas. 2 New York City squatters wanted for murder are being sought in Pennsylvania. It began last week when 52-year-old Nadia Vittel arrived from Spain to check on her deceased mother's luxury Manhattan apartment. Police say she encountered 2 squatters, a man and a woman living in the apartment. Police say a struggle broke out and Vittel was thrown into a sheetrock wall and died from blunt force trauma to her head. Her body was stuffed in a duffel bag and put in a closet. The victim's son came to check on her, only to discover a foot sticking out of the duffel bag. The building superintendent says the son then called authorities.
He directed them to the closet, because all the clothes had been pulled down. And he said there was a bag underneath it. And he said, can you open the bag, because I believe there's a body in there.
It's believed the suspected squatters took Vidal's car and fled to Pennsylvania. Adult film actress Stormy Daniels says she is absolutely ready to testify against her former President Trump in his New York hush money criminal trial. Daniels says, though, she's somewhat surprised by the strong threats she's received after the case was announced.
Suddenly the indictment happens and all of this stuff, and I was just telling Joy, it was like 2018 all over again. Except now they're more vicious.
Stormy Daniels spoke on ABC's The View. Global news 24 hours a day and whenever you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Michael Barr, and this is Bloomberg, Karen.
All right, Michael, thank you. Time now for the Bloomberg Sports Update, brought to you by Tri-State Audi. And for that, we bring in John Stashower. John, good morning.
Good morning, Karen. First round is what makes the NCAA tournament so special. We see it every year. Smaller schools who play in small gyms, very often not on TV. The players don't get nil money, and they upset a heavyweight. We saw it 2 years ago with St. Peter's, last year Fairleigh Dickinson, and last night the Cinderella slipper belonged to Oakland University from Rochester, Michigan. A loser of 11 games, a 14 seed who had never before won an NCAA first-round game. The Golden Grizzlies knocked off Kentucky 80-76. Jack Golke scored 32, made 10 threes, and was asked how David slayed Goliath.
obviously we come in, we're the underdog by all measures, but you just gotta, as a player, you can't think that way. You gotta go out there and you gotta think that you have the same talent level as them. I know they have draft picks, and I know I'm not going to the NBA, but I know on any given night I can compete with those type of guys, and our team can compete with those type of guys.
As for St. Peter's, no run this year. They lost by 34 to Tennessee. Wagner lost to North Carolina by 28. Dan Monson now joins the unemployment line. He got fired by Long Beach State, but his team surprisingly won the Big West tourney. They then lost to Arizona by 20. The Knicks lost in Denver, 113 to 100. Too much Nikola Jokic, 30 points, triple-double. Jalen Brunson scored 26. He averaged 37 a game on the road trip that saw the Knicks go 3-1. They're back home tomorrow afternoon to play the Nets, who lost their fifth in a row, 115 to 108 in Milwaukee. Rangers won 5-2 in Boston. Artemi Panarin, 2 goals in the second period. Adam Fox snapped a 2-all tie in the third, and the Rangers then with 2 empty netters. The second one by Panarin to complete the hat trick. He's now the 5th leading scorer in the NHL. Islanders lost 6-3 at Detroit. Devils beat Winnipeg 4-1. The NFL says it will not outlaw the quarterback sneak tush push. John Stashower, Bloomberg Sports.
Coast to coast on Bloomberg Radio, nationwide on Sirius XM, and around the world on Bloomberg.com, Bloomberg Television, and the Bloomberg Business app. This is Bloomberg Daybreak.
Good morning, I'm Nathan Hager. Social media company Reddit made its much-anticipated trading debut yesterday, marking the 4th largest initial public offering on a U.S. exchange this year. Shares soared 48% above their IPO price, closing at $50.44. Investors are betting big on Reddit's vision of profit from the growth in artificial intelligence. Reddit's chief operating officer, Jen Wong, joined Bloomberg's Caroline Hyde and Ed Ludlow to talk about how Reddit plans to leverage AI to increase its value and how going public is giving the company plenty of momentum.
Well, there's certainly a lot of press on a day like today. It is a special day, but becoming a public company has just made us a better company. We've actually been in this process longer than most, almost 2 years actually, and that process has made us more disciplined, more operationally rigorous, and actually allowed us to get to know investors better and tell our story. And so this whole process has made us a better company, and we're prepared to be a public company. I think it's actually been really good for us. And I think companies that, can go public, it's sort of a duty. It's part of the, process of maturing as a company. And then the benefit of having our employees have liquidity, which we promise them, and in addition have our communities and users be able to be shareholders, makes a lot of sense for Reddit.
Jen, the evolution of the story is for you moving away from a solely advertising-based business model to one where you license your user data to the companies that are building large language models. I just asked if you could explain to our audience how that works in practice, how you're going to grow that business.
Yeah, well, just ahead of addressing that, I just wanted to provide context. One of the things that's so special about Reddit is that we play in 3 big addressable markets. We have this core advertising business. Ads is a great business. It's still early. We have great traction and momentum. That's our core business. We have an emerging data licensing business that we built the foundations for last year because Reddit's corpus of information is incredibly important to the training of large language models and also for insights for different kinds of businesses. And the third is a user economy where our communities go beyond conversation into being able to transact with each other. Now, you asked about the data licensing business, which we built the foundations for last year. That has 2 pieces to it. It is a piece that's sort of well established where there's social listening for marketing for companies who want to understand what's happening on Reddit to inform marketing campaigns. There's also financial services companies who are interested in that. Those are well-established markets. And then there's the new emerging market of AI, where large language models need data to train on. And when you look at Reddit's corpus, 19 years of human experience organized by topic with moderation and relevance, that's incredibly important to building both a chat capability and the freshness of information. So that's an area where, we see opportunity. I think what that signals, whether it shows up honestly in our revenue or whether it shows up in the value of Reddit, is how valuable Reddit is. The more that we move toward this AI world, world, that corpus and that knowledge and refreshment of human experience becomes more valuable.
Those LLMs, the models, are being built in new and different ways. This actual technology also develops. I'm interested as to really whether this goes on in perpetuity. Do you see this sort of licensing being steady and secure for 10 years from now?
This is so early in this emergence of this technology. It's hard to see far out. The way I think about it, the way we think about it is the Reddit's corpus of data is incredibly valuable, and it gets more valuable because as there's more content that's generated maybe by AI or computers, original human thoughts and ideas increase in value, right? If you think about it, a new car comes out. Who's going to review it? A real-life family of 6 can actually tell you what it's like to drive that car. That's always going to be valuable. And so, whether that shows up in data licensing or in the products that Reddit builds, it is valuable.
This is Bloomberg Daybreak Today, your morning brief on the stories making news from Wall Street to Washington and beyond.
Look for us on your podcast feed at 6 a.m. Eastern each morning on Apple, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.
You can also listen live each morning starting at 5 a.m. Wall Street time on Bloomberg 1130 in New York, Bloomberg 99.1 in Washington, Bloomberg 106.1 in Boston, and Bloomberg 960 in San Francisco.
Our flagship New York station is also available on your Amazon Alexa devices. Just say, Alexa, play Bloomberg 1130.
Plus, listen coast to coast on the Bloomberg Business app, SiriusXM, the iHeartRadio app, and on Bloomberg.com. I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm Karen Moscow. Join us again tomorrow morning for all the news you need to start your day right here on Bloomberg Daybreak.